going to talk about planning here. When you make your when you set up an IP network, you're going to have the subnets. That's pretty common. And how you set your subnets up is going to depend on how your network is. It's going to be a logical result of your physical setup. So, for example, like a school, you probably have a subnet for your intermediary devices, such as switches and routers. You might have one for your servers. You might have one for your printers. It depends on what you have. So, or it might be all in one giant, infrastructure subnet. But you probably have to separate out between your faculty PCs and your student PCs. Now, if you're not at school, say like you're a hospital or maybe major corporation, you might break it down. These subnets might break these subnets down by, say, the clinic area have its own subnet. Your long-term care might have its own subnet. The paper pushers in the admin area who do all the keep track of personnel records, they keep track of medical records, and do all the data part have their own subnet. And IT might have their own subnet. Again, it's going to depend on where you work and how you structure it. So it's going to be based off a logical grouping. And we have three core choices to start with: the 10 series, the 172.16 series, or the 192.168 series, because these are the private IP addresses. These are not routable over the internet. These are the ones that any network is going to use, which your devices will show. Right now that you're using to be one of these ranges. Now 10 has more, 192 and 168 has less. They also have these subnet masks have changed a little bit. Default subnet masks have changed a little bit over the years. These IP addresses, you have to choose one range to fit you. 10 for much bigger companies, 192 and 168 for much smaller ones. You rarely don't see the 172.16 because they tend to go, if hey, we're big, we'll go with 10. If we're pretty small, we just go with that. So it kind of gets forgotten about quite a bit. Your public side one, your router, which will have a public side one, which will be separate from yours, will be divided by your service provider, but not related to what we're talking about. We're not talking about the outside part, we're talking about internally. So why do we do this? So prevent duplication. We break these things down so we don't have repeated IP addresses, because if you have more than one device with IP addresses, it's like saying you have the same building address. It doesn't work that way. You get wrong mail doing that. We also do this to provide performance and security, which goes into access control. Because subnets are their own net, in many ways they are their own network, or they're a foundation to building a logical network that's separated from yours. So you want to keep them separated out. You don't want information that's sitting on, financial stuff getting into the general employees. You don't want your guest network access to your employees network, where you're actually being productive and doing work, where, financial or private or discussion might be going on that could, hurt a patient or hurt a customer or hurt a business deal. So you want to plan this out beforehand. And this is the foundation for which you build off your security, which you build off your access control, which you build off making sure you don't have duplicates. This is where it begins. So when you do it, you build a table. The table will tell you the ranges that are for what. Typically, the last IP address in a range or the first IP address in a range will be the gateway for that subnet or that network, typically. And immediately following them, in the example we see here, the last one is that IP address. Last IP address is the gateway. Immediately before that are going to be intermediary devices such as other routers or switches. Probably switches, probably not routers. And then you have one for printers, and then you have one for servers, or you might combine this together, but in this case they haven't separated out. And then the host devices, which is basically every other PC, have their ranges. And then we keep track of each individual one. Printers, servers, intermediary devices, gateway, they typically are static. Host ones will probably change. Probably not worth keeping track of each one. There might be a handful that you do, and you might have a little sub-range in here that says these are the static PCs in here, but typically not. This is a little packet tracer to give you practice on it. Design and implement, they'll walk you through the process of whatever they're building you're doing. This little lab actually requires hard physical access, which you don't have, so sorry. So that's it for this section.